Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater. This is my review, my what I think of Star Trek Discovery Episode 5, Choose Your Pain. Finally, an episode with some Klingons doing some actual stuff instead of just standing around and talking at literally half the speed. As much as I am enjoying this show, the Klingons have just been a huge letdown. Like, this was the first time they actually did something of merit, and that was capture Commander Lorca, which happens right before the opening scrawl of the episode. This is coming to right after he was kind of chewed a new one by Starfleet Command over the usage of the jumps that they've done with the Discovery using the Spore travel system. I don't really know what you want to call it at this point. Some people refer to it as Star Trek Discovery's versions of midi-chlorians, but listen, until these spores start producing Jedi mind tricks, I'm just not gonna buy it. I'm just not gonna buy it at all. It's kind of an odd, contrived system and one that never made its way further into the canon, but you can kind of see why at the end of this episode. And so also, you know, Lorca catches a little bit of crap over bringing on Michael Burnham, right? You know, his commander's like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "I can take anyone I want," and she's like, "But this is the first mutineer, and you're kind of being a dick about it." But of course, none of that matters once he gets captured and brought aboard a Klingon ship. Now, this is where Lorca meets up with Harry Mudd, a character that made his original appearance in the old the old series, the original series. If I could remember its name, for some reason I can't. And this time around, it's played by Rainn Wilson, which is so interesting to see him actually portray a character that is not Dwight Schrute. I was very much surprised that he was going to be on it, and I thought he actually did well for the character. He is very much a businessman, very much a grifter, very much a con man, very much out for only himself. And trust me, this does come back to bite him in the ass. And actually, I felt he was a great addition to the series and one that I hope shows up later on for more than just this one episode. And so when Lorca's captured, this is where Choose Your Pain comes from. Klingons come in and they basically, they say choose your pain. So Harry Mudd points at an injured Starfleet crewman who the Klingons basically beat to death. They beat the guy to death right there. I was very much surprised at that. I was like, okay, all right, Klingons are throwing down. Klingons clearly mean business. We found out in the last episode that they ate Captain Georgiou, right? That was clearly new. People were upset too. The Klingons are cannibals. Well, not really, not the same species. So not really cannibals, but you know, they're gonna eat what they can get. Actually, I pretty much figured they killed this dude to drag him out of there in order to eat him. That plot point was never actually addressed, which I'm kind of glad about. But at the same time, I kind of figured it was gonna be a thing, right? I kind of thought like, oh, well, they talked about, you know, stripping the flesh off of Georgiou's body, right, and devouring that last week. You figure they were gonna be like, ooh, Starfleet cadet. A little gamey, but it's you know, a little ripe, but we can work with that. But at the same time, back on the Discovery, we find out that you know, Lieutenant Commander Saru, right, or First Officer Saru, I should say, now becomes Captain Saru in the wake of Lorca's disappearance, and wants to make sure that he is able to live up to the potential of other captains. He wants to live up to their namesake. So he has his computer create a protocol, which I found to be interesting, that he created this protocol in order to look at like the top like living or dead captains in the Starfleet, you know, up to that point, and to basically assess his decisions based upon their successes in order to, you know, figure out what he's doing right, what he's doing wrong, and go down in the annals of history as actually being a good captain. I thought this was an interesting piece of character development for him, only because it shows that he cares what people think of him. He cares what he has to do. He wants to be the best, right? What I like though, there's a little bit of an Easter egg in there with Christopher Pike being on the bottom of the list. Thought that was interesting, right? I was like, oh hey, I know that name. Not very well, because I'm not a huge Trekkie, but I know that name. But this is where him and Michael Burnham get into a bit of a tiff, simply because Michael has been tasked with trying to keep the alien that they found on the vessel from a couple episodes ago alive. And even though it's been able to use these spores as a way of kind of a navigational system to do all the jumps, it's having its effect. This is a sentient being. It has feelings, and it is just getting the crap beat out of him in order to continuously make these jumps. So Michael has empathy for it and wants to find a better workaround. She, of course, goes to Saru. Saru, because, just found out Lorca's missing, basically shuts her down. Says, look, we'll address this when Lorca gets back. Until then, stand down on this and do what I tell you. She then goes to Stamets, and Stamets, being a scientist, actually understands. I thought that was actually really cool of him. I thought he was going to kind of be a jerk about it because the spore system's his design, and he actually is starting to care about this creature and not wanting to kill it. Therefore, they're trying to find an alternate method. So they determine that they could basically put its DNA into something else that's compatible and essentially use that as a workaround. Of course, Saru gets all pissy about it and shuts it down, forcing Stamets to essentially, well, use it on himself. This is because they did it once with the alien, and the alien goes into some kind of coma-esque type state in order to survive, and is unable to be activated in order to jump. So Stamets does what he feels is the next possible step, to inject himself and to use himself as basically kind of like the battery for this particular GPS. And of course it almost kills him, and everyone gets all upset because, he's almost dead and stuff. And then Lorca and another crewman, who, by the way, had been banging the captain of the Klingon vessel. It was a woman, so straight up, cool, rise above sexism, give women, equal place in the Klingon Empire, but they're getting down, right? She's a little lonely deep in Klingon space, and here comes this kind of pretty boy lieutenant, and even Lorca's like, how is it even possible? She has like 6 extra organs. Like, how would that even work? But apparently, to quote Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park, life will find a way. And they found it. They found it, right? So there's that. But of course, she then tortures Lorca by knowing his weakness, that he's got photosensitivity with his eyes. And that is something she uses against him, which then prompts Lorca to determine that Harry had actually been selling out information to the Klingons in order to keep himself from getting beaten up. That's part of his survival tactic, his survival technique. And this does come back to bite him in the ass, because Lorca does plan an escape. Him and the lieutenant get out of there, leaving Harry behind in the vessel. And I thought that, or in the jail. And I thought that was great, because he's like, this isn't the last you've seen of me. And clearly, in canon, no, he pops up 10 years later. So clearly he gets out of there. But I'm hoping he does come back and act as a bit of an antagonist from time to time. Look, 8 seasons of The Office. I'm a big Rainn Wilson fan. To see him actually be in something like this makes me happy. All right. And then, they get on a Klingon raider, and they're running away from a couple other raiders trying to track them down. And this is weird, because it jump cuts from them in the hallway of the Klingon ship into a raider, like not running and getting in it, not taking off out of the ship, out of the vessel, and being chased by other raiders. So I thought that was kind of like oh, we need to save some money. Let's just skip this sequence of events and go right to the space battle. And so as they're in the spaceship, the Discovery sees them, and Saru, understanding the hunting tactics of the raiders, determines that Lorca is in the front, leading the pack, so to speak, is able to get a hold of them on the radar and then beam them out, leaving the raiders to not know what happened, or to think that they destroyed their prey, essentially. And then they jump to get out of there, realizing that it was Stamets who was inside the jump, and he gets healed. Everything is all good. Saru feels bad for what happened. He trusts Burnham now more than he did, obviously. I think he always trusted her, to be fair. I think he always trusted her, and I think that I think he finally now understands more about her, which I think is clearly part of the show, is to show their character growth together. Like, they were kind of at odds on the Shenzhou, and now on the Discovery, like, they're really at odds, but piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. I don't think we're going to get some interspecies erotica going on, but I do think we're going to get a solid friendship, very similar to Kirk and Spock. That's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be very much a parallel to that relationship, which is cool with me, totally fine with me. And then at the end, They basically release the Tardigen out into space with some spores. It allows it to wake up, realizing it's no longer in danger, and it zaps off into infinity, into the unknown, which I felt was kind of a good ending to the episode, right? So it sets them back technologically speaking, which was one of the concerns I think a lot of fans have had so far, is the fact that going into this show, it feels like this is far more technologically advanced than the original series, which has been a fair point of contention. But at the same time, this is basically Section 31, or the beginning of Section 31, so you can understand why it's going to be like this. You know, they're going to have other technologies that aren't available yet, and so the spore system is going to be something they're going to work on. They've seen what it can do, but they also are trying to not kill something. But they now have the Tardigen DNA. They could probably maybe find a way to clone it, or clone something that's not sentient, or basically make their own navigation system. So we're gonna have to see where that whole thing happens. Who knows where that's gonna go? So the episode, just as a whole, was good. Again, it's growing week by week by week. I didn't feel though that it was as good as last week's or the week before's. I felt that there was a lot going on with it. A lot could have been kind of been maybe pulled back a bit. The Klingons, again, were a lot cooler this time around, but still, it's hard to look at them sometimes because it just looks corny, especially the female captain. She had this constant state of like look on her face like she's always constipated or something. But I liked how she got hers, right? Like, she was going to kill the lieutenant. Lorca came back and shot at her, but it hit the wall and scarred her face, and then she's all screaming, "Ah!" And then they take off. You figured they would have destroyed the ship on their way out, right? You figured it would have happened, but that's okay. That's fine. Clearly, she's going to come back later on, wounds and all, and be a much harder character to kill. I imagine the Klingons in this are going to be very similar to the orcs in Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War, where they just continuously come back and get harder and harder and harder until you eventually behead them. That's what I feel. Thing I liked Stamets and the Doctor. They're clearly gay. We now know that they're a couple, but their final moments on the episode were sweet. I thought that it was a good conversation. It was a very sweet relationship, and that's something that's totally cool. I love it when characters have good chemistry, or when actors have good chemistry and they're able to convey good, solid relationships. I don't care what sexuality they are. It has no impact on my life. Some people out there I did read were upset that there were going to be gay characters in this show. Which case, really, come on. Like, if we've moved past religion, you can move past, same-sex couples, right? If you're totally okay with Kirk borning a green chick, and not only the original series, but also the reboot movie, then you're okay with two dudes getting down and dirty. That's the way I see it. And you can disagree with me if you want. That's totally fine. But before I get to the final part, let's address the elephant in the room here. Language. Star Trek has never really been one to have hardcore language. Maybe you have like damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a whatever. You have that. Okay, that's fine. Here you had shit. Shit was said by the lieutenant on the Klingon vessel. I thought to myself, okay, I can. That's not bad. That's totally fine. I'm okay with that. That's all good. Then you get to the part where they're trying to figure out how to find an alternative DNA source for the spores, and Tilly straight up drops the F-bomb, and then they all drop the F-bomb. I actually had to pause the episode for a hot minute, quickly jump over to Midnight's Edge Facebook group, which at this point is like maybe 90% hatred and 10%, it's all right, to see if anyone there was talking about this. They were not, nor was it really anyone else that I could see on Twitter talking about it. So clearly this didn't have an impact on people except for me, which is fine. I just found it to be very interesting, super interesting that they dropped the F-bomb multiple times, like enough to make it go to rated R if this was a movie. And there was a line a while ago from a producer saying, like, if we need to say the F word, we'll say the F word. And I thought that's kind of odd. I mean, that means they're going to say it at some point in time, but that seems odd. That is what they're going to do. And no, they did it. And it just felt really out of place. It felt entirely unnecessary. And I like to swear. Oh, I love to swear. But that to me felt entirely unnecessary. So that's like my one big criticism of the episode was that. Like that was unneeded. Like, you know, like dropping, saying shit. I'm fine with that. That's fine. I get it, you know, a little bit edgy, a little bit PG-13, but straight up 3 times using the F word. I don't know. Oddly enough, I'm puritanical about that, of all things. I don't get it. But the final thing I want to talk about here is very much what I would call a Stranger Things moment, which is where this episode ended. That would be with Stamets, you know, talking with the doctor in the bathroom, and the doctor's like, "Are you good?" And he's like, yeah, I'm fine, baby. You know, and then he goes to walk away from the mirror. We look at the mirror, and the reflection of Stamets has not left. It smiles, and then it turns around and it walks away, obviously indicating the mirror universe. I think we knew this was coming. Didn't know it was going to be so soon. But that's where we are. That's what's happening right now with Star Trek Discovery, Episode 5, Choose Your Pain. Again, not a horrible episode. It's moving the plot along. I'm enjoying the serialized take on the show versus the procedural efforts of the Orville. And yeah, I'm, you know, again, not too keen on the swearing. But other than that, it was a serviceable episode, and it's still building itself out. Yeah, I don't hate it. It's still not as good as the Orville. I'm not going to rush home to come see it, but I do look forward to next week's episode to see where it goes next. And yeah, but the question is, though, what about you? All right, you like it, you dislike it, you hate it, you love it. These are things I want to know. Write it down in the comment section. Did you appreciate the swearing, or did it feel so out of place? Let me know. If you haven't already, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Check back often for television show reviews and movie news from me. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.